What's up, guys? We're gonna give everybody a couple more minutes to join, and then we'll get started here. Also, go ahead and put if there's any stocks that you want me to check out, anything on your watch list that you have that you want me to review and go over, I can definitely do that. So make sure to put that in the chat as well. But I will be going over my watch list and some basic stuff like the indexes and things like that. Okay, let's get started here. So looking at the charts, okay. So let's go to just some different stocks we can start looking at. So first things first, if we take a look at the indexes, we have a pretty interesting setup, right? It may not be as evident in other things, but let's take a look. Okay, so obviously we have to be bullish, right? There's nothing bearish about these charts, okay? And why do I say that? I mean, it's just a proven fact, right? We've got the EMAs that are stacked. We've got ADX trending higher. We've got higher highs and higher lows, right? Now, most basic of things, you can see here, once we have this breakout, and you can see it's pretty obvious here. So typically what happens is this is how a trend works, right? we have a consolidation, we break out, pull back to the 21, make a move higher, back to the 21, make a move higher, pull back to the 21. We didn't hold. So then essentially we start that on the opposite side, right? So it's pretty much here, back to the 21, up, back to the 21, up. We break below the 21, and now we start trending below it. We tried to break above it, but ultimately failed, which sent us lower. And then continue to downtrend, right? So now notice what's going on, right? Make it easier you make trading, or the more simple you make trading, the easier it's going to be, right? We had a breakout above the 21. It was a clear trend change. And for those that were in the mentorship class on Monday or Tuesday last week, first one, here's a structure break, right? Here's the lower high that made a lower low. Honestly, you could even put it right there. There's the lower high that made a lower low. We broke that, and then I've been off to the races and have not broke structure since. Okay. And now we'll start to add EMAs, and actually, I think we're going to be doing that this week. I'll have to review the schedule I have, but I think we're going to be going over moving averages and stuff this week. So kind of tying in some indicators, but this is part of it, right? So you can see here, we broke above the 21, which is most important EMA in my, or moving average in my opinion, right? Typically, a market is going to respect that. You can see it pretty much all over the chart. It's just this white line right here. And so you can see here, we've came back to it, bounced, came back to it, bounced, came back to it, bounced, came back to it, bounced. And it's kind of been a trigger to make new highs, right? So as long as we remain over this 21 EMA on the index futures, we can expect us to continue higher without a pullback. Okay. And then you can kind of see same theme here, just on the SPY chart. If you tend to look at SPY, it's the same exact thing, right? We just got gaps and stuff. And if you look at this chart, SPY, I haven't looked at this in a while. You can see how volatile the market has been as of recently, with how many gaps we've had every single day, gapping up or gapping down. So it's made it pretty interesting, especially for swing trading. So now that we're looking at this, same thing here. Now, what's interesting is the NASDAQ tried to break and make a high the other day. We kind of failed to do so. But if you notice here, if we look at structure, you can see we pushed up. We put in this high off this higher low, put in this high, came back down, and we broke that with that lower high right there. And then we broke again. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a minor pullback and then a continuation. Now, past few months has been a little easier to tell market direction, and it's been a little more obvious just because, I mean, we're in a clear trend, but not only that, we had some major psychological levels that we kept trending towards on the back of a weekly squeeze, right? So what had happened over the past few months was just a weekly squeeze since back in October, November of last year. So we broke out of that weekly squeeze. And then from there, essentially what happened was we continued to trend higher, right? And the momentum's still going for the weekly squeeze. It's just we're starting to get extended. Usually these last 8 to 10 bars. And we're about at that. I mean, how many are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're at 11. So we've definitely hit our mark on this continuing to move upside, right? And so on top of that, if we look at, so that's kind of at the point where we might start to lose gas, right? But at the same time, we've got a daily squeeze. Now, momentum has shifted to the upside on this. So naturally, we have to think that this is going to fire higher. And it's been a little bit easier deciding where the market was going to go first because, I mean, right here was really easy. We saw here, it was just a bull flag pattern, broke out of that. It's pretty obvious we're going to go hit this high here. And then from there, extension targets, we'd be looking at like 17,000 on the NASDAQ, which was here. And you can see we came up to it, rejected. And then from there, we continued up. And the next obvious target off of this daily squeeze, which we had been talking about for a while, off this daily squeeze right here, was a move to 18,000. So that was that right there. Okay. And then for ES, pretty similar, but really the target was 5,000. And that seemed to be pretty obvious as well. Just because daily squeeze within a weekly squeeze, trading above this previous high, you can kind of see it was like a break and retest consolidation above, broke out, and then went to hit 5,000. Okay, so all that's cool, right? But let's kind of talk about where the markets may go from here. Now, first things first, you can't ignore this. So notice each time we've had a daily squeeze, okay? Notice each time that we've gotten a daily squeeze, you can see this one, it was one dot, but it's still played out to a push to the upside, daily squeeze, push to the upside. And then now we are in another daily squeeze and have fired off here. So naturally what we have to expect is that we are going to have some sort of move upside, considering that it has pushed the upside. It's very rare that we get a false breakout on the squeeze. I mean, if you look at it, the past, so if I don't count this example here, you can see the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here, 6, 7, 7 daily squeezes, we have gotten nice upside moves, and or really a move in whatever direction the squeeze fires off, right? You can see here was a short signal, here was a short signal, this was a short signal. Now we've been trending up. Okay, so in this short trend, it was 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've gotten 1, 2. We might have one more left in us. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of looking at, and I can't ignore the signal or the fact that we're in a clear uptrend. The daily squeeze has fired off to the upside, and why would we not continue up, right? I'm not going to be the guy that tries to pick the top. I'm just going to follow the trend, and it's worked the past 7 times, and we can go back further than that if you really want to. You can see here it fired to the upside, and we got to move upside. Fired to the downside here, and we got to move downside. So it's like, why fight it, right? Like the past 10 times it's been correct. So within the past 2 years, right? And we can go back on plenty of data, which I've done in the past, and I don't really need to continue to elaborate on that, right? That's just my analysis. And so on top of that, you can see this is fired off to the upside. Now let's continue through, right? NASDAQ has yet to fire off. We poked out above that high, grabbing some liquidity from breakout buyers. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect to see a pullback here and then just continue up. And then naturally, I would think we go hit 19K. Eventually, we've got 20K up here, right? So now you guys will learn that psychological levels typically act as magnet points, right? The market will usually drift towards these price levels. And right now we're trying to kind of struggling at the price level of 18,000. So because that was a first initial target, right? And so that's our first initial target. Now, we kind of rejected that a couple times on Friday. But we had a break, retest, broke above it. You can see on the lower time frames where that kind of happened, and then ultimately failed it and broke down. But here's the key. The signal is pretty much similar, right? We break above this. Think about how many people tried to get long here on this break, They're probably just trying to make it really hard to catch the breakout. Something similar to like this here, where we had this high, where we couldn't break above, and we had resistance here. You can see we tried to break out above it once, we tried to break out above it twice, and then 3 times, and then we finally got that break above. And then so that's what we have to pay attention to, is not necessarily who cares. I mean, this level is good for trying to think where the market's going to go next, but really you have to pay attention to like what else has been going on, right? I mean, just like I went over in ES, clear uptrend, okay? Very clear uptrend. And you can see came to the 21, bounced down to the 21, broke below it for a second, came back above, retested it, broke out. Came to the 21 and broke out, okay? So came back to the 21, broke below it for a minute, and then went back above it and moved higher. Okay, so really when it comes down to it, same idea. We just haven't had the daily squeeze fire off yet. Now we've gone from red to black, which means that some of the compression has released. So the red squeeze has fired off to the upside, but we haven't got that full release like here or here. Okay, so we haven't got that yet. Now what we're looking for is what are we going to do from here? And I think it's a matter of just breaking above this high. Now, if we go look at YM or even DIA, this is going to give us some other kind of ideas of what might happen here. So first thing is first, you can see that we've been trending higher similarly, but really I think that this is a much closer target and we're right, but getting pretty close to being there, is we're less than 1,000 points on YM to head to 40,000. That's the main thing that I'm watching. That I think that I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think the rally is over until this thing hits 40,000, and that's just my opinion. And if we go to DJ, I mean, obviously things can change, and we can just change what we're doing. But right now, now think about it. We have a clear uptrend on the indexes. Think about all the reasons that is coming with it, right? So we have a clear uptrend on the indexes. We have a squeeze with rising momentum, momentum shifting to the upside on all 3 of the indexes. The major index, ES, SPY, S&P 500 is firing off to the upside, okay? And then on top of that, the rest of these are shifting momentum to the upside. Now, and then we have a huge psychological level up here for the Dow, okay? Okay, now what's on top of that, right? We go to XLK, the most influential sector within the entire market, which is technology. So for this one here, you can see we have a daily squeeze. We have momentum shifting to the upside. Now we've got stacked EMAs on the daily, 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, and the weekly. We've got stacked EMAs on every time frame, similar to the other two, right? On top of that, we've got momentum moving to the upside on all of these. So this chart is clean. We've got everything working in our favor that we need to see, right? So we have all of those things working for us. Okay. So on top of that, we've got this daily squeeze. The daily squeeze is firing off to the upside, or has yet to fire off to the upside, right? But we're seeing shift in momentum, and we're kind of catching that move up. Okay. So that's the next thing. And that's the most influential sector within the market. Okay. Then we can look at some other sectors that are pretty influential. Okay, so when we look at XLF, we were in calls on this one a little while back. But as for this one, you can see here we had a clean breakout out of this flag, right? This is the second most influential sector in the market. So XLF having a clear breakout, and now look at where we are in terms of all-time highs. You really don't, you think this trend is going to reverse to the downside and start moving lower to come all the way maybe down to here before it goes test this all-time high? I mean, that to me, that seems pretty unlikely, right? It just doesn't seem like that's going, like it's probably not going to happen in my opinion. Obviously, we don't know, but that it seems pretty obvious that this is like a unfulfilled prophecy because we are about less than 5% away of all-time highs on XLF to go hit an all-time high, right? Okay, on top of that, this will kind of lead me into now kind of taking a pause from that and moving into stocks on my watch list, because a lot of them are XLF stocks. If so, JPM is one that's already gone, right? This is the heaviest weighted stock within the sector. And you can see here, we've had a huge move upside. Okay. Now, what are some names within this sector that has not taken off yet? You can see BAC, right? You can see this major pivot point that we had here. You can see it was a pivot point here. It was a pivot point here, and it's acting as support here. Okay. You can see that. And not only that, if you look at the structure, okay, you can see I already have it marked by this purple line. I should probably change this color. Okay, so now you can see we have this major pivot point in the first place. Now on top of that, where's our higher low that made a higher high? Right here, okay? Which happens to coincide with where the 21 was. Okay, so you can see here we had a higher low that made a higher high. We broke that, right? And then basically we broke this high or this lower high that created a lower low. And we had to move upside, broke out from that, didn't continue, but we had our pullback, and then we never broke structure from there. What you would want to see for a break of structure is a break below this higher low. Okay, look at how many times we tried to break below this higher low. And then we had this huge wick to the downside. This one just looks like it's primed to go up to $35 and retest new 52-week highs. Okay, so that's BAC. Another one within the sector is C. You can see here we had this giant consolidation, right? And what happened is we had more than likely we had breakout, we had a range bound, and then people tried to buy the breakout below the bottom of this range here and got faked out miserably. And now we ripped to the top of this range and are breaking out of it. And you can see this is a pretty clean trend. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this one continue higher, right? We had a nice rip up, okay? We had earnings, digested it, all good. But I'm not necessarily looking to trade that one as much as I am BAC and as well as Goldman Sachs, okay? So you can see Goldman Sachs, why I like BAC a little better. You can see this pivot point that we have right here. That's basically a resistance level. We've had a really hard time trying to break this. Now, if we look at BAC, the chart is very similar and it's almost going to be the same trade. But you can see here, we broke above this pivot point and have been flagging above it ever since. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of considering, I like the idea of this one moving higher first, before I go and look at GS, right? But something that is intriguing to me for GS is that, okay, we are about 40 or where are we? We're about $8 away from that psychological level of 400. So I really like the idea of that. I'm going to test that 400, and if we can get through 400, we're going to head up into this 420 and then ultimately new all-time highs. So I like that as well. And I like how well we had a strong move up and have been consolidating ever since. So I like that one. Going to keep that on my watch list. We've got a 2-day squeeze. We've got a daily squeeze. We've got a 3-day squeeze. We look good. Okay. So those are within the financial sector, right? And that on top of the financial sector, having a daily squeeze that just fired off and is looking great. Okay. And then from there, something that's going, so XLV. Now this one is probably the most poised stock to have a major breakout. And the reason why, or sector to have a huge breakout, is because you can see here, we were in this range since back in 2021. We've been in this range. Now it'll be really easy to see on the monthly time frame. You can see we basically created this bull flag, right? And we have a monthly squeeze. Okay. Now look at the last time the monthly squeeze fired off to the upside. But a huge rip upside. Okay. Here's another monthly squeeze, had a big rip to the upside. Now look at where we are now. Okay. So we had a break above that high here. Once we broke above that high, we have been ripping ever since. And this is a monthly break of structure. And on top of that, we were in a bull flag. So I do think this one is just getting started. It's just a matter of catching an entry at some point to trade it to the upside. Okay. So that's that. So this is the third most important sector within the markets. Okay. So that's all of that. That's kind of my breakdown overall of the markets and why I'm thinking that we're going to continue upside. And that's that. So kind of all three cylinders are working in conjunction with each other. Now, when it comes to my watch list, another one that I'm really paying attention to that I want to see if we can catch the breakout on is IWM. This one looks great. Basically, I'm just looking for a breakout to the upside, a break above that 205 for a continuation to 210. We've got a daily squeeze, got the stacked EMAs. We have a monthly squeeze. And if we break out of this range, we could see a really nice push to the upside into the supply area, and then from there potentially to a new high. But yeah, we took this trade a few weeks ago. We got in on this day, caught 120% before CPI, and now I'm looking to reload and potentially catch this one to the upside again. And similarly, we've got a 2-day squeeze, and yeah, that's it. We've got a 2-day squeeze and a daily squeeze. 2-day squeeze is an A+ setup, looks great. So, and then you can see here we're kind of holding above this resistance area. Okay, so that's that. So if you guys have charts you want me to look at, I can go over those. As for my watch list, those are the main things I'm watching. A couple other ones keep an eye on. It's Airbnb. This one could break out to the upside. Not one of my favorites, but I do think it has good potential, strong uptrend. And weekly squeeze is just now fired off. So I just don't like the supply up here, supply area. But I do think that this daily squeeze could get us going. Okay. Now for stocks you guys are looking at. CVX. Okay, so I am interested in oil. I do think that we could have a move upside. Here's the thing. I tried to play USO last week in a small size position. Now, reason why I played it small is because, like, if you look at, well, really, it all says it right here, right? we have a downtrend on the weekly time frame. So like USO, CVX is going to follow XLE. Now XLE looks pretty good. It has a squeeze, maybe finally wants to break out of this resistance area right here. Okay. We've been trying to do it. We've been trying to do it. This could be the time, right? We had a sell off and Scott bought back up. So I do think there's potential that we could finally move upside in this one and reverse and follow this trend and potentially go test $100 from a longer term basis. Now, it's just, if you're getting in here, I wouldn't be paying attention to shorter dated contracts. I would be looking for a longer term play. And reason being is because XLE, I would look for it to make a similar move as what we just talked about. I would expect CVX to make a new high, but I also think that I would probably lean more towards this Exxon just because it's a bit stronger, heavier weighted, and also just the chart looks better from a monthly time frame perspective. They all look about the same on the weekly. So my opinion on CVX, it's all dependent on if you think energy is going to head higher. And I think that that's very possible with XLE. It's just not the best trade, best looking setup, but I do think that there's potential. So, and I would kind of lean more towards Exxon before CVX personally, but it's all going to be the same trade. Someone said, how do we look at the squeeze? There's an indicator to look at it on. It's called by Beardy Fred right here, TTM Squeeze Pro. I'm going to be teaching that. That's kind of the basis of my trading strategy and will be in the mentorship. So if you're interested in doing that, we can go over that. Or, I mean, you can sign up for that, but I'll be going into full in-depth how it's coded, stuff like that, and how to use it in the mentorship to explain it all and how I trade it. Does Riot follow Bitcoin? Yes and no. It's kind of like the similar idea of, okay, it's kind of like asking the same question as does gold or does gold mining stocks companies follow gold directly? They have some correlation, yeah. Like when Bitcoin had its big breakout, so did Riot. It's just the charts don't look the same. Like if you look at Riot's chart does not look like, if you look at it, Riot's chart does not look the same as Bitcoin. I mean, somewhat, but like I would rather trade Bitcoin than I would Riot. Did you see that SMCI has a price target of 1300 per share? Yeah, SMCI, I don't think that's surprising. Basically, what happened is people realized this is way better of a company than it actually was evaluated at here during this time period. And so this is what repricing looks like in the market. And when a valuation changes, basically when investors see the value of this stock has changed and like based on fundamentals and things like that. And so they reprice it. Now, typically what happens is they will reprice it and overshoot, and then it will come back down. That's kind of what happened with Tesla. We had repricing happen. You can see here, and then now we've kind of tried to meet in the middle and kind of equate to what it should be, if that makes sense. What is the game-changing indicator talked about? I mean, I can talk about it a little bit here. It's basically this. It's something that's already been programmed into TradingView. I've just taken the code and redesigned it to fit my trading strategy, and it kind of gives you insight into all the different time frames of the market. And there is one that's in here already. It's just I changed the code in it and made it fit towards my style more, and it allows me to see every time frame that I want to see. So for the stack DMAs, the squeeze, the momentum, all that stuff, I can see it all within right here and this table. And so I can see any A plus setups that set up my way. Do you think AMD is going to fill the gap on Monday? I mean, maybe, but I don't think it's going to change anything. This is a bull flag. And until it breaks below this low here, I'm not going to think much of it, honestly. I can only look at this bullishly and think it's going to continue higher, basically from the higher time frames. I'm kind of deciding how I'm going to do that, sharing the indicator with Signals members or just people in general, because it did take time to recode it and redo it. So I'm still working out the kinks and making sure that it works how I want it to work. And yeah, so nothing on that yet. But Rivian, somebody asked me about this the other day. This looks like a short. I definitely wouldn't try to go long this at all. It's at all-time lows. So really, if you're in it, just raise stops and ride the momentum. So yeah. NQ, a 2-hour. Yeah, we've got a 2-hour squeeze. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait for a shift in momentum or for us to roll over, and then I'll go from there. And I'll just take it from. But yeah, I will definitely keep an eye on this for sure. I mean, that 4-hour squeeze paid very nicely last week. So let's see if we can do something similar this week. Hopefully it's a push higher. But all right, guys, thank you guys for coming. If you guys have questions, make sure you can DM me, message me in the chat. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you all for coming, and I will see you guys for the markets tomorrow.